Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a destination that's really buzzing lately, not just for holidays, but, well, for property investment too.
That's right. We're diving into the real estate scene in Phuket. That's Phuket.
And for this deep dive, our main source is an article, actually, from the blog of Ocean Worldwide.
Yeah, they're a luxury real estate agency, and importantly, they're based right there in Phuket since 2004. So, boots on the ground.
That local insight is so valuable, isn't it? And the source makes it clear they focus on that luxury residential market. Not just Phuket, but Koh Samui too.
Exactly. And they mentioned the director, Sandra O'Neill. Apparently, according to the source, she's helped literally thousands of families and investors find their footing there over the years.
Wow, that's some serious experience.
It really is. So the perspective we're getting is, deeply local and specifically targeted at that high-end residential segment.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack what this Ocean Worldwide article says are the key drivers behind Phuket's real estate growth. We want to understand the investment potential they're highlighting and, well, really get into why Phuket property is looking so appealing right now based on their view.
Makes sense. Where should we start? The famous beaches.
Well, yes, because everyone thinks of the beaches first, right?
Yes.
But the source argues the appeal is much broader than that.
It does, though it does start by setting that scene. The incredible natural beauty is the foundation. It talks about those world-famous beaches, Patong, Kata, Surin. You picture the white sand, the blue water.
Absolutely.
And then the lush landscapes further inland, that year-round sunshine, which is, let's face it, a huge draw. And something maybe less obvious, the source points out. Phuket is relatively safe from major natural disasters compared to some other spots in Southeast Asia.
That's a really interesting point. Adds a layer of security.
It does.
Yeah.
So all that together creates this, well, incredibly desirable backdrop for living, not just visiting.
Okay, so nature sets the stage. But the article seems to really emphasize the lifestyle that's grown beyond the beaches. That seems key for property investment.
This is where it gets interesting, I think. The source talks about a really established and, importantly, welcoming expat community.
Yeah.
That's massive if you're thinking of moving or staying long-term.
Makes settling in much easier, I imagine.
Totally. And then there are the international schools, a huge range of restaurants, global cuisine plus social clubs, all that stuff. The article paints this picture of Phuket evolving into a place where expats can feel properly at home, but, in paradise.
It's not just about the fun stuff, though, is it? The source mentions practicalities, too.
Oh, absolutely. Essential services. It points to good quality healthcare being available, lots of education options for families with kids, and then all the recreation, world-class golf, water sports, those wellness retreats that are becoming so popular.
Right. These aren't just tourist things. They're part of the fabric of living there long term.
Exactly. They attract people who want to stay, who want to invest time there, not just a 2-week holiday.
And connecting to that long-term view, the source brings up infrastructure development quite a bit.
Yeah, and this is critical, I think, for understanding the investment angle. The government's putting serious money into improving things. The source mentions better roads, making it easier to get around the island, the airport expansion, which boosts connectivity.
Makes flying in and out easier.
Much easier. And just general upgrades to public services. This isn't just cosmetic. It directly bumps up property values by making the island more accessible and, well, just easier to live on.
And it signals commitment, right?
That's the key takeaway the source seems to suggest. It shows the government is serious about Phuket's future, its sustainable growth. That's huge for attracting serious long-term investors, not just people looking for a quick flip.
Okay, so strong lifestyle, improving infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pivot to the core argument.
Yeah.
The investment potential. The source seems pretty bullish on Phuket property making financial sense right now.
Well, the main thing it highlights is appreciating property values. It links this directly to Phuket, just being so consistently popular, both as a place to visit and increasingly a place to live.
And this applies across the board. Villas, condos.
Yeah, the article specifically notes that values for both villas and flats or condominiums have been on a steady upward trend. It suggests the market's shown resilience, which points towards good potential for capital growth over time, especially in those desirable areas.
It's not just one type of property investment, though, is it? The source mentions variety.
That's right. It lays out a whole range of options. You've got your luxury villas, obviously, but also modern condos, even things like boutique hotels or serviced apartments.
So different budgets, different goals.
Exactly. Are you looking mainly for rental income? A personal holiday escape? or more of a pure capital appreciation play? The market seems to offer avenues for all of those, according to the article. It's not just one size fits all.
And given Ocean Worldwide's background, it's probably no surprise the source puts a special focus on the luxury end of things.
It definitely does. The article explicitly mentions a, quote, substantial surge in demand in the luxury sector.
Right.
It's attracting these high net worth individuals, wealthy buyers and renters from all over, looking for that exclusive property in paradise privacy, top-notch amenities, amazing locations.
So for investors, the source is saying that tapping into this demand for premium living is a major opportunity.
That's exactly how it's framed, a key opportunity right now.
Okay, that makes sense. So the article also suggests that now is a particularly good time to invest. Why now? What specific factors does it highlight for the timing?
Well, one thing it mentions is that timeless allure of island living, the dream of escaping the rat race, a slower pace, friendly locals.
That enduring appeal.
Yeah, it consistently draws retirees, people looking for second homes. So it's a lifestyle investment that also happens to have that financial upside potential. It provides a sort of steady baseline demand.
We talked about infrastructure. The source connects that to the timing aspect again, doesn't it?
It does, and it's worth reiterating. The fact that this significant infrastructure investment is happening now signals that government commitment to the island's long-term future.
It's not just talk.
Exactly. It suggests stability, planned growth. So the article implies that investing now means you're getting in while this foundation is being strengthened, which should support future value growth.
And the elephant in the room for an island economy tourism. How does recovery play into the timing?
Huge factor. The source describes a really strong tourism bounce back post-pandemic.
Which means more demand for rentals.
Precisely. More tourists means higher demand for short-term lets. So for property owners, that translates into potentially better occupancy rates and therefore better rental yields.
So the article is saying now's a good entry point, with tourism picking up and looking bright going forward.
That seems to be the argument. Get in now to benefit from that returning rental income stream, essentially leveraging the comeback of global travel.
Okay, so let's zoom in a bit. What are the fundamental forces the source identifies as the main drivers pushing this growth?
Well, a big one highlighted is increased foreign investment interest. People are drawn by that whole package we discussed. The natural beauty, the lifestyle, the improving infrastructure, that established expat scene.
It's a combination.
Right. And the article suggests these investors aren't always just looking for a financial return on paper. Often it's a mix. They want the lifestyle upgrade and a solid investment. Phuket seems to be ticking both boxes for many.
And location, location, location. Always key in real estate.
Absolutely. The source points out Phuket's strategic spot in Southeast Asia. It's really easy to get to from major international cities, lots of direct flights.
And the airport expansion helps there.
Definitely enhances it. Makes it super convenient, not just for holidays, but for investors who might need to visit regularly or who are thinking about resale value down the line. It really positions Phuket as a convenient, regional, even global hub.
What about government policies? Are they helping or hindering this foreign investment?
The article suggests they're generally favorable and make it easier. Now, there are rules, of course. Foreigners can't typically own land outright in Thailand.
Right, that's important.
Very. But the source explains the common workaround. Long-term land leases, often structured for 30 years, but with options to renew, effectively giving control over the land for long periods, to build a villa or something.
But condos are different.
Yes, crucially different. The article highlights that foreigners can own condominium units freehold outright in their own name. That's a much simpler path to direct ownership.
So these established, clear policies are seen as welcoming investment.
That seems to be the message. They signal a stable, growth-friendly environment for international money.
Okay, shifting to the broader economy. What impact is all this having on the real estate market itself?
A major impact highlighted is the rising demand for rental properties. And it's not just tourists driving this.
The expats, too.
Exactly. The growing expat community needs places to live long-term. So you have this dual demand, short-term holiday lets, and longer-term residential rentals. That creates a pretty dynamic and potentially lucrative rental market for owners seeking steady income. It's a strong economic base.
And who's actually buying? Does the source give a profile of the typical buyer?
It points specifically to growth in high net worth individuals, HNWIs. These are wealthy buyers, often from overseas, who are actively looking for luxury places in Phuket.
drawn by the lifestyle and amenities we talked about.
Precisely. The exclusivity, the quality of life. And this influx of HNWIs directly fuels demand at the top end, those luxury villas, the large high-spec apartments.
Yeah.
It drives activity and value in that premium segment.
It also sounds like the island's economy isn't just about tourism anymore.
That's a really important point the source makes. There's a conscious effort to diversify. So yes, tourism is vital, but Phuket is also growing in areas like high-end healthcare, international education, even tech.
Making it more resilient.
Exactly. Less vulnerable to shocks that might only affect tourism. Plus, it attracts a wider range of people, professionals, families, medical tourists who need housing, further supporting the real estate market's stability and growth potential across the board.
Okay, so for someone listening who might be thinking, this sounds interesting, how does the source suggest actually navigating the Phuket market if you are considering investing?
Well, it gives some practical pointers. It talks about different areas having different vibes, different investment profiles. Like, it contrasts Patong, which is very lively, very busy.
Nightlife central.
Right. With areas like Bangtao or Kamala, which are generally quieter, more upscale, more residential. The source stresses that picking the right area really depends on what you want. Maximum rental yield from tourists, or a peaceful spot for your own holidays or retirement.
Makes sense. And what about property types? Which ones are hot right now, according to the article?
It flags luxury villas and modern condos as the main drivers. Condos are often mentioned as, a more affordable entry point and generally easier to rent out, especially if they're in well-managed buildings.
And service apartments.
Yeah, those offer that really hands-off option. The management company handles rentals, maintenance, everything. Very appealing if you just want hassle-free income. Villas, obviously, are aimed at that top tier seeking privacy and luxury. So it shows there are different ways in, depending on your budget and how involved you want to be.
Now, we touched on this, but the legal side for foreign buyers. The source emphasizes this is absolutely critical, doesn't it?
Non-negotiable. And the article is very clear. Investors must understand the rules. We mentioned foreigners can't own land directly.
The leasehold structure.
Right, those long-term leases, often 30 years plus renewals, are the standard way for foreigners to control land for, say, building a house. But again, the crucial difference. You can own condo units freehold, title deed in your name.
Similar to owning an apartment back home.
Pretty much. But the absolute bottom line, stressed repeatedly in the source, is you have to get independent, experienced Thai legal advice. Before you sign anything, do proper due diligence on the property, on the developer. Don't cut corners here.
Sound advice for any market, really.
No.
So, looking forward, what's the future outlook according to the trends the source identifies?
An interesting trend it highlights is this growing focus on sustainability.
Eco-friendly building.
Yeah, eco-friendly designs using renewable energy, better waste management. The source suggests this is resonating more and more with buyers, especially maybe a younger generation, who value that environmental responsibility. It could shift demand towards greener properties.
Are there specific design trends emerging within the properties themselves?
Yes, the article mentions a few. Things like smart home tech becoming more common. Flexible living spaces, rooms that can be an office one day, a guest room the next. Designs that really blend the indoors and outdoors to take advantage of the climate.
Makes sense in the tropics.
Absolutely. And also a continued, maybe even growing, demand for privacy and exclusivity. Think luxury villas with their own pools, secure compounds, that kind of thing.
And overall, does the source feel Phuket can hold on to its magic, its appeal, with all this development?
It seems pretty optimistic, actually. The perspective is that Phuket's fundamental charm, the beauty, the lifestyle, the location, the investment angle, that combination will keep drawing people in.
But it needs balance.
That's the key, according to the source. The future success hinges on balancing this growth with those sustainability efforts, preserving the very things that make Phuket special in the first place.
The article also mentions Phuket's unique mix of old and new, tradition and modernity. How does that play into the appeal?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. The source suggests Phuket does a pretty good job of keeping its cultural heritage alive. The temples, the local markets, the festivals, alongside all the modern development.
So it's not just erasing the past.
Apparently not. It describes it more as an integration. You might see luxury hotels incorporating traditional Thai design elements, for example. This means the island can offer you both, peaceful, culturally rich spots and buzzing modern amenities, great restaurants, entertainment, kind of the best of both worlds.
And just to quickly circle back, The source consistently flags that luxury segment as a major opportunity zone.
That's definitely a key takeaway. The article sums up the strong potential in those high-end villas, exclusive resorts, mentioning areas like Surin, Bangtao again, and also in things like well-managed service departments or unique boutique hotels.
You can find the right niche.
Exactly. The core message for that premium end is understanding what wealthy buyers or renters really want. Privacy, top quality, and excellent amenities. If you deliver that, the demand seems to be there.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive drawing from the Ocean Worldwide article. Really paints a picture of Phuket's real estate market having this multifaceted appeal, doesn't it?
It really does. Driven by the obvious natural beauty, sure, but maybe more importantly now, by the comprehensive lifestyle it offers, the significant infrastructure upgrades happening, that strong tourism comeback.
Plus the foreign investment and the supportive government policies allowing things like condo ownership.
Right. And the market itself is diverse options from those ultra-luxury villas down to more accessible condos and service departments, so different ways to participate.
But the legal side for foreigners needs real attention.
Absolutely critical. Get proper independent advice, that's stressed throughout. But yeah, looking forward, the source suggests the outlook is pretty positive, especially if Phuket manages that balancing act growth with sustainability, preserving its unique character.
So based on this perspective from Ocean Worldwide, an agency right there on the ground specializing in luxury property, if you've been mulling over a holiday home, maybe a longer-term move, or an investment property somewhere tropical, well, Phuket seems to present a really compelling case worth digging into further right now.
Yeah, and maybe that leaves us with a final thought, something to chew on, drawn from the themes in the article. As a place like Phuket races ahead with modern development, fueled partly by this luxury market, how well can it truly balance that economic momentum with protecting its unique culture and its incredible natural environment for the long haul? That seems to be the central challenge and maybe the biggest opportunity highlighted by the source.
A lot to think about there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.